Am I wrong for no longer bringing dinner for my wife after she claimed I never cook? I work at a nice restaurant as a cook, and every day when I get off from work, I always cook dinner for my wife and our 2 kids, 8 male and 6 female, at the restaurant before coming home. The only time I don't cook for them are on the weekends when I'm off, and that's when my wife does the cooking. We usually trade off who makes breakfast and lunch for the kids every other day, but for the week, I'm always the one bringing home dinner. Weekends, we sometimes get together with friends and they come over to the house. My wife usually cooks and I set the table and clean afterwards. One of her friends, Stacy, asked how come I never do any of the cooking, and is it always on my wife all the time making meals for the kids, especially when I'm a cook myself. Instead of correcting her, she sort of laughed and went along with making jokes about, you know how it is. And Stacy laughed because her ex-husband was the same way. And then sort of ripped on me in a joking way how I better bug up before I become an ex too. My wife just said, well, let's see if he actually listens and starts cooking for once. Joking about all the time I spend in the kitchen at work, but won't do the same at home. Am I wrong for telling my son I was disappointed after he and his wife lied about my grandson's birth date? My son, 23, and his wife just had a baby boy. Everyone is overjoyed and excited, but there have been some issues that have risen recently. When my daughter-in-law was pregnant, I suggested that I host a welcoming party for my grandson right after she got discharged from the hospital. I made arrangements and even emptied a room for them to stay, but for some reason she was against it and said she'd rather spend the first few weeks at home with her newborn. Not only that, but she said no to the welcoming party. My husband and I talked to my son and he said, we'll see. But just a couple of days ago, we found out that my daughter-in-law had given birth 2 weeks ago and no one knew about it. My nephew told me and I immediately called my son. He confirmed it. I told him this was not acceptable, lying just because they didn't want a welcoming party and love and support being given from family. I told him I was disappointed because for one, he ruined our welcoming for our grandbaby, and also I invited family members and they're all right. Am I wrong for calling my sister's husband useless? My 17 female sister, 34 female, called me saying that her work had an emergency and she needed to get there ASAP and needed me to watch her kids because no one else can. I rushed over there just to find her husband locked in his game room playing video games. I asked her why she called me over if he was home, and she said he didn't want to babysit because it was his only day off. Sister left and I started hanging with the kids. I was changing the baby's diaper and the other kids wanted a snack. I told them to ask their dad to make it for them because the baby had a blowout and it was going to take me a while to clean him up. Well, their dad sent them back upstairs and told them to ask me again. After cleaning the baby up, I made the kids a snack and their dad came out to eat and told me not to let the kids interrupt him on his day off. By the way, he works part-time from home 6 days a week. I kind of snapped at him and told him it was my day off too and that he's a useless fucking father and husband if his wife has to rely on her teenage sister rather than her own husband. He started telling me I was disrespectful and didn't